Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The war room on Crexel Prime was designed to make fear feel small. Its ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadow. A vast black void broken only by thin veins of cold blue light. The walls were forged from polished alloy, sharp-edged and reflective, turning every movement into a distorted echo. Floating tactical screens hovered in the air like frozen ghosts, displaying star maps, casualty projections, and conquest tallies that updated in real time. Around a massive circular table sat the ruling commanders of the Hegemony Empire, the most feared military power the galaxy had ever known. 47 star systems burned red on the central hologram. 47 victories. 47 worlds broken, stripped, and folded into the hegemony's ever-expanding dominion. At the head of the table stood Admiral Vexra. Her skin was ash gray, scarred with the pale lines of old plasma burns and blade wounds earned in campaigns long past. She did not bother to hide them. Among her kind, scars were not marks of survival. They were proof of dominance. Her posture was straight, her movements precise, controlled, each gesture radiating the calm certainty of someone who had never known defeat. Vexra had conquered more worlds than any admiral in hegemony history. She had never lost a battle. She had never spared an enemy. "The next target is simple," she said, her voice sharp and cold, cutting through the low murmur of the chamber. With a flick of her wrist, the central hologram shifted. The red symbols of conquered systems faded, replaced by a single blue-green sphere rotating slowly in the air. A small planet, fragile, peaceful, almost beautiful. "A minor world," Vexra continued. "Third planet from a yellow-class star. Locals call it Earth. The dominant species refers to itself as human." A few commanders leaned forward, others smirked. Commander Cross, a broad-shouldered brute whose reputation was built on fast, brutal victories, let out a short laugh. "That's it? That's what we're discussing?" The hologram zoomed closer, revealing swirling oceans, scattered land masses, and thin bands of artificial light clinging to the night side of the planet. It looked weak. Commander Zorak, the intelligence officer, studied the image in silence. His role was not conquest but preparation, understanding the enemy before the first shot was fired. After a moment, he spoke. "What do we know about these humans?" Vexra's lips curled into a thin, humorless smile. "They are primitive," she said, "fragmented, violent toward one another. They possess a handful of orbital stations, a few small fleets, and no unified interstellar military." She tapped a control, and new data scrolled across the screens. Chemical propulsion, early generation energy weapons, no planetary shields worth mentioning. Their first sustained presence beyond their homeworld began less than 50 standard cycles ago. Several commanders nodded in approval. "Barely spacefaring," Cross said. "They won't even understand what's happening. They fight among themselves constantly," Vexra added. "Wars, rebellions, internal conflicts. A species more interested in arguing than advancing." The room relaxed. This was familiar. This was easy. "How many ships?" Cross asked, already bored. 100? 200? Vexra considered the question for half a second. 50, she said. "That will be more than enough." A ripple of amusement spread through the chamber. 50 hegemony warships could crack a continent. Together, they could reduce a planet to molten ruin. "This will be over in a single rotation," Cross said. "We mark the world, destroy their orbital infrastructure, demand surrender, and harvest what remains." As always, the word harvest carried a heavier meaning. Resources would be stripped. Technology seized. Survivors would be relocated. Those deemed useful pressed into labor. The rest discarded. Planets did not join the hegemony. They were emptied by it. Zorak cleared his throat. "There is one irregularity," he said carefully. Vexra turned her gaze on him, sharp and impatient. "Speak." "I have been monitoring human broadcasts," Zorak said. "Their entertainment media, their historical archives. They tell an unusual number of stories about war, Cross snorted. All primitives glorify violence. Yes, Zorak agreed, but humans seem to enjoy it. They simulate battles, reenact conflicts, study past wars obsessively. Their cultural output is saturated with combat. And? Vexra asked. And they do not portray themselves as victims, Zorak continued. They portray themselves as survivors, fighters, sometimes as monsters. For a moment, the room was quiet. Then Vexra waved a dismissive hand. They fight with sticks in ideology, she said. We fight with plasma cannons and reality-breaching weapons. It does not matter what stories they tell themselves. She reached out and placed a red symbol over Earth, the harvest mark. Every civilization in the galaxy knew what it meant. Total defeat, complete subjugation, the end of freedom. We attack in 3 cycles, Vexra announced. Standard procedure: jump in fast, neutralize orbital assets, issue surrender terms. If they refuse, we proceed without delay. The meeting ended, as it always did. Commanders rose from their seats, already discussing logistics, spoils, and which systems they would request once Earth was processed. Laughter echoed faintly as they departed. Only Zorak remained behind for a moment, staring at the small blue planet suspended above the table. Something about it unsettled him. It wasn't the planet itself. It was the data gaps, the inconsistencies, the way human infrastructure appeared crude, yet consumed far more energy than it should have. The way their military records showed conflicts that ended too cleanly, too efficiently. He filed the thought away. The hegemony did not fear anomalies. They crushed them. 2 cycles later, the invasion fleet assembled at the edge of controlled space. 50 warships floated in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons capable of leveling cities. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Vexra watched the final preparations with practiced calm. Jump drives charging, the navigation officer reported. Weapons primed, shields at full strength. In 30 seconds, they would appear above Earth. The humans would have no warning, no time to understand, no chance to run. Vexra allowed herself a single thought as the countdown began. Another world added to the tally. She did not yet know that Earth was not a target. It was a test. The invasion fleet was ready. 50 hegemony warships hung in the void like a blade poised above a vulnerable throat. Blue-white energy rippled across their hulls as jump drives charged in unison, warping the space around them. On the bridge of the flagship, the air hummed with restrained power, the kind that came only moments before annihilation. Admiral Vexra stood at the center of the command platform, her hands clasped behind her back. Through the panoramic viewport, she could see the faint distortion of space beginning to bend inward, the first sign that the fleet was about to tear a hole through reality itself. Final systems check, she ordered. All ships green, came the response. No anomalies detected. 30 seconds. The humans would never see it coming. That was when the universe misbehaved. Admiral, the communications officer said, his voice tight, uncertain. We're receiving a transmission. Vexra did not turn. From where? A pause. From the target system. The bridge went quiet. That's not possible, Vexra said calmly. Our approach vector is masked. No species at their level has ever detected us before jump. I know, Admiral, the officer replied, but the signal is real. It's coming from Earth. The countdown continued to tick in the background. 20 seconds. Put it on screen, Vexra said. The central display shifted. There was no video feed, no emblem, no attempt at formal communication, just a block of plain data. Coordinates. And 4 words. Remember what we did? For a long moment, no one spoke. The jump countdown hit 15 seconds. What does that mean? Commander Cross demanded. Some kind of bluff? Vexra stared at the words, her mind already working through possibilities. Psychological warfare from a primitive species made no sense. They should not even know the hegemony existed, let alone how to contact its fleet mid-jump. Coordinates? She asked. The navigation officer pulled the data. They point to an uninhabited system, Admiral. Catalog designation, Xerion Prime. The name landed like a physical blow. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as several officers instinctively leaned back, as if distance alone could protect them from the word. Xerion Prime, a dead system, a forbidden reference. Every military academy in the galaxy taught the same lesson. Do not ask what happened at Xerion Prime. 7 planets had once orbited its star. Billions of lives. One of the most advanced systems of its era. Now there was nothing but debris, radiation, and silence. And one other thing, fear. The countdown hit 10 seconds. Cancel the jump, Vexra said. Cross spun toward her. Admiral? Cancel it, she repeated, sharper now. But we're fully charged. I gave an order. The pilot hesitated for half a second, then complied. Jump aborted. The distortion collapsed. Space snapped back into its natural shape, leaving the fleet stranded in the void, weapons hot and unanswered questions hanging heavier than any enemy fire. Vexra stepped closer to the display, her eyes locked on the message. Remember what we did? She repeated quietly. Xerion Prime had been destroyed 200 cycles ago. At that time, humans had barely achieved sustained orbital flight. They could not have been there. They could not have done anything. And yet, Admiral, Zorak said slowly, the Devourers vanished at Xerion Prime. Everyone knew the story. The Devourers had been unstoppable. A consuming force that stripped systems to the bone, leaving only lifeless rock behind. They had conquered nearly half the known galaxy before reaching Xerion Prime. Then, they disappeared. Entire fleets, every ship, every soldier, gone. No wreckage, no survivors, no explanation. Even the hegemony had avoided that system ever since. We don't know what destroyed them, Zorak continued, but the implication of this message is that the humans are claiming responsibility, Cross interrupted, incredulous. That's ridiculous. Vexra said nothing. Her instincts, honed by centuries of warfare, were screaming. This was not a threat. It was a reminder. Trace the signal, she ordered. We already did, the communications officer replied. It originated from a human station. Designation, Sanctuary 7. A new image appeared on the screen. A small, unremarkable orbital structure drifting quietly in space. No visible weapons, no heavy shielding, nothing that suggested importance. And yet, it had just halted a hegemony invasion fleet without firing a shot. Sanctuary, Cross scoffed. They name military installations after places of worship now? Zorak didn't laugh. Admiral, he said carefully, that station has been operational for exactly 200 cycles. The bridge felt colder. Since when? Vexra asked. Since immediately after the Xerion event. Silence spread again, thicker this time. Coincidences happened, but not like this. Not on this scale. Vexra straightened. I want a full investigation. Everything we have on humanity, their history, their technology, their conflicts. I want answers. Yes, Admiral. How long will it take? Cross asked impatiently. Vexra looked at the hologram of Earth, still hovering nearby. A small world, bright, peaceful, waiting. As long as it needs to, she said. We do not move until we understand what we are dealing with. For the first time in the history of the hegemony, an invasion had been halted by uncertainty. Hours passed. Then something else arrived. Admiral, the communications officer said again, his voice barely steady. Another message from Earth. Vexra's eyes snapped up. Put it through. The screen changed. This time, it was not just text. A timer appeared. 72 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The numbers immediately began to decrease. 71 hours, 59 minutes, 58 minutes. A countdown, Cross said. That's their threat. What happens when it reaches 0? Someone asked. No one answered. Vexra stared at the falling numbers, a cold realization forming in her mind. This was not desperation. This was not panic. This was scheduling. Maintain fleet position, she ordered. No aggressive actions. No approach toward Earth. Yes, Admiral. As the countdown continued, Vexra felt something unfamiliar settle into her thoughts. Doubt. Not doubt in her power, but doubt in her assumptions. Earth remained quiet. No weapons charged. No fleets launched. Just a small blue planet counting down, as if time itself were on its side. And for the first time in centuries, the hegemony waited. Commander Zorak had not slept in 2 cycles. The lights in his intelligence office never dimmed. Dozens of screens surrounded him, each one displaying a different fragment of human existence. Cityscapes glowing at night, grainy footage of ground wars, diplomatic archives, scientific papers, civilian broadcasts. The more data he consumed, the more uneasy he became. Humans did not behave like a primitive species. They behaved like something pretending to be one. Admiral Vexra entered without announcement. She never announced herself. "Report," she said. Zorak gestured toward the central display. A map of human-controlled space appeared. Small, scattered points of light marked stations and colonies, modest in number, unimpressive in scale. "On the surface, their expansion is minimal," he said. "No aggressive colonization. No territorial claims beyond their immediate region." "That aligns with the data we already have," Vexra replied. "Get to the part that concerns you." Zorak nodded and touched a control. The map changed. Each point of light turned red. "There are exactly 47 human space stations," he said. Vexra's eyes narrowed. "Coincidence." "That's what I thought," Zorak agreed. "Until I overlaid our own conquest records." New data appeared. 47 red zones, systems the hegemony had conquered over the last 3 centuries. The alignment was perfect. 1 human station for every world the hegemony had taken. The room felt suddenly very small. "Observation posts," Vexra said slowly. "Yes," Zorak replied. "Not colonies, not outposts, watch points." He switched the feed again, pulling up internal scans of several human installations. On the outside, they looked crude. Thin hulls, exposed frameworks, minimal visible weaponry. But the energy readings told a different story. "Their reactors are vastly overpowered for civilian infrastructure," Zorak explained. "A research station does not need this level of output. A mining platform does not require shielding capable of deflecting capital-grade weaponry." "How advanced?" Vexra asked. Zorak hesitated. "Comparable to us. Possibly beyond." That was impossible. The hegemony's strength came from stolen brilliance, technology ripped from dozens of conquered civilizations, refined and weaponized. Nothing in the galaxy should surpass it. "Show me their military records," Vexra ordered. The screens shifted again, now filled with battle footage, human conflicts, border skirmishes, internal wars, peacekeeping operations. "They fight each other constantly," Vexra observed. "You said that yourself." "Yes," Zorak said, "but watch how they fight." He slowed the footage. Human units moved with flawless coordination. No wasted motion, no panic. Every maneuver had purpose. Battles ended quickly, decisively. "Casualty rates are abnormally low," Zorak continued. "Even in situations where defeat should have been inevitable." "They retreat?" Vexra asked. "No," Zorak said quietly. "They adapt." Another clip played. Human soldiers shielding civilians with their own bodies. Medical teams treating enemy wounded. Supply drops delivered to populations still actively hostile to them. "This behavior makes no sense," Vexra said. "Mercy is inefficient." "Unless," Zorak replied, "you are not afraid of losing." The implication settled heavily between them. "They fight as if defeat is not a possibility," Zorak continued, "as if they know they can always escalate further, but choose not to." He opened another file. "This is the signal trace from the message we received." Coordinates appeared again. Zerion Prime. "And this," Zorak said, his voice tightening, "is where it came from." A schematic of Sanctuary 7 filled the screen. "An unremarkable station," Vexra said. "Built 200 cycles ago," Zorak replied. "Immediately after the Zerion event, it has remained operational ever since, broadcasting nothing. No trade signals, no military traffic." "A ghost," Vexra murmured. Yes, Zorak said. A watcher. He hesitated before opening the final file. This record was buried deep in classified hegemony archives, he said. Marked beyond restricted. I wasn't supposed to find it. Show me, Vexra ordered. The screen flickered. Then space appeared, chaotic, burning, alive with motion. The Devourer fleet. Thousands of massive vessels, larger than any hegemony battleship, their hulls bristling with planet-killer weapons. For centuries, these ships had been the nightmare of the galaxy. But in this footage, they were not advancing. They were running. Pause, Vexra said sharply. The image froze. Enhance, she added. The camera shifted, zooming out. In the distance, smaller ships appeared, sleek, angular, dark against the stars. Familiar. No, Vexra whispered. Human ships. They moved in perfect formation, cutting through space with cold precision. There was no chaos, no desperation, just methodical pursuit. They were hunting the Devourers, Zorak said. That's impossible, Vexra said, though the words felt weak even as she spoke them. The Devourers had overwhelmed entire empires. Yes, Zorak agreed, and the humans erased them. The footage resumed. A blinding flash filled the screen, swallowing ships, stars, everything. When the light faded, there was nothing. No Devourers, no human fleet, no Zerion Prime, just empty space. The recording ended. Silence filled the office. They've been watching us, Vexra said at last. Yes, Zorak replied, watching, waiting. And they knew we were coming to Earth before we decided to come. Zorak nodded. Vexra turned her gaze back toward the distant image of Earth. Still peaceful, still unassuming. All this time, she said slowly, we thought they were hiding because they were weak. She clenched her fist. They were hiding because they didn't need us to see them. Outside the office, the countdown continued to fall. And for the first time since she had taken command, Admiral Vexra understood a terrifying truth. The galaxy had never been unprotected. It had simply been under quiet guardianship. The full recording loaded without warning. This time, there was no distortion, no missing frames, no corrupted data. What appeared on the screen was history, unaltered, undeniable, and terrifyingly clear. Zerion Prime, 200 cycles ago, 7 planets orbited a bright, healthy star. Orbital habitats dotted the system like jewels. Civilian traffic moved in calm, orderly lanes. It was a prosperous system, alive with industry, culture, and confidence. A place that had believed itself safe. Then, the Devourers arrived. They did not jump in formation. They erupted into the system like a spreading infection. More than 10,000 warships, each one larger than the hegemony's greatest capital vessels. Their hulls were grotesque, asymmetrical, built for destruction rather than beauty. Energy signatures flared as planet-killer weapons powered up. They came to erase everything, Zorak said quietly, just like they always did. The footage accelerated. Stations burned. Cities vanished beneath orbital fire. Entire continents glowed as atmospheres ignited. Zerion Prime's defenders fought bravely, but it was meaningless. Their fleets were shattered in minutes. Their weapons barely scratched the Devourer's armor. Then something unexpected happened. Smaller ships appeared on the edge of the system. Primitive-looking vessels, insignificant compared to the monstrous invaders. They fired sporadically, then turned and fled deeper into the system. The humans, Vexra said, her voice flat. Yes, Zorak replied. And watch what they do next. The human ships did not scatter in panic. They withdrew with precision, maintaining formation, deliberately staying just ahead of the Devourer advance. The enemy followed eagerly, confident, hungry. They're leading them, Vexra realized. Baiting them, Zorak confirmed. The Devourers pushed toward Zerion Prime itself, chasing what they believed was a collapsing resistance. The system grew quieter as civilian traffic vanished. Evacuations triggered long before the final confrontation. Then the planet changed. Zerion Prime did not crack. It did not explode. It opened. The planet's surface split along vast, glowing seams, unfolding like a mechanical flower. Entire continents shifted position, revealing structures buried beneath kilometers of rock and mantle. Weapons, not installations, not defenses. Weapons on a planetary scale. Energy cannons rose from the crust, each one the size of a mountain range. Missile arrays unfolded across oceans. Shield networks flared to life, enveloping the planet in layered fields of impossible strength. Xerion Prime was not a colony. It was a fortress world. It was a trap. The weapons fired. Beams of pure energy lanced across space, each shot annihilating dozens of Devourer ships. Missile swarms followed, tearing through enemy formations with surgical precision. The Devourer fleet, moments ago unstoppable, began to disintegrate, but the humans were not finished. From hidden positions throughout the system, more ships emerged, thousands of them. These were not the small vessels that had acted as bait. These were warships, true warships, sleek, silent, advanced beyond anything the hegemony had ever constructed. They moved as a single organism, each maneuver perfectly synchronized, each volley devastatingly efficient. The Devourers fought back. Their weapons were powerful, their numbers vast. It did not matter. Human ships danced through incoming fire, predicting trajectories before they formed, striking critical systems with merciless accuracy. Entire Devourer battle groups vanished in seconds. How? Vexra whispered. No species fights like this. They're not improvising, Zorak said. They're executing. The battle collapsed into chaos. Most of the Devourer fleet was destroyed within minutes. The survivors turned and fled, engines burning as they attempted to escape the system. The human ships stopped pursuing. They formed a line, then a message went out on every frequency, translated perfectly into the Devourer language. A single human voice spoke. You came to conquer. You came to destroy. You came to take what was not yours. The Devourers slowed, uncertain. We could erase you, the voice continued, but we will not. The human fleet held position. Leave this galaxy, never return. If you do, we will not show mercy again. Most of the Devourers obeyed. Their ships jumped away, vanishing into the void, fleeing from a battlefield they had never believed they could lose. A few did not. A handful of Devourer vessels turned back towards Xerion Prime, weapons charging for one final, desperate strike. That was when the planet moved. Xerion Prime shifted position, not through propulsion, but through reality itself. Space bent around it, stars warped. The fabric of existence screamed as physics unraveled. What is that? Vexra asked, fear finally breaking through her composure. I don't know, Zorak said, but it's not a weapon as we understand them. The remaining Devourer ships tried to flee. They failed. Space collapsed inward, rewriting itself. Matter, energy, information, everything that defined those ships ceased to exist. They were not destroyed, they were erased. When it was over, Xerion Prime began to fall apart. The fortress world collapsed inward, consuming its own weapons, its own secrets. In moments, the planet was gone, leaving only empty space behind. A warning written into the galaxy itself. The recording ended. Silence followed. Vexra stood frozen, her thoughts unraveling. They built a world, she said slowly, just to kill monsters. Yes, Zorak replied, and then they destroyed it so no one else could ever use it. Vexra understood then. The humans did not conquer. They prepared. They eliminated threats, and they vanished again. Outside the intelligence center, alarms began to sound. Admiral, the communications officer called over the intercom. We're receiving a new broadcast from Earth. Vexra turned back toward the screen. The countdown was still there, 48 hours. But now, beneath it, a message scrolled across every frequency, visible to the entire galaxy. We know about the hegemony empire. We know about your conquered worlds. We know about your slaves. We have watched. We have waited. Withdraw from all occupied systems. Free every enslaved people. Return home. You have 48 hours. Vexra felt something she had never known before. Not fear of destruction, fear of judgment. And for the first time, she wondered whether the hegemony had already lost, long before they ever chose Earth as a target. The galaxy did not wait. The moment the human broadcast spread across all frequencies, something ancient and fragile shattered. Hope. On worlds that had known only occupation, whispers became voices. Voices became crowds. Crowds became rebellion. Across 47 conquered systems, the hegemony's symbols were torn down, its garrisons surrounded, its supply lines severed by civilians who had nothing left to lose. In the hegemony command center, red warning lights filled every screen. Uprising on Altair Prime. Centauri 7 has cut communications. Multiple systems reporting coordinated resistance. Admiral Vexra stood motionless at the center of the chaos, watching her empire fracture in real time. "How is this possible?" Commander Cross demanded. "They're slaves, farmers, miners." "They were waiting," Zorak said quietly, "just like the humans." The countdown continued to fall. 26-17-42. "They believe humanity will protect them," a communications officer said. "They believe they're not alone anymore." Vexra's gaze drifted back to Earth's image, still small, still distant. "It's just one planet," she said, as much to herself as to the room. "How can one world do this?" Zorak pulled up new reports, dozens, then hundreds. Stories. The Altarian Republic, a dying star stabilized by human intervention. Billions saved without payment. The Centauri Federation, a civil war ended by a single human envoy who never explained how. The Riel Mining Consortium, an extinction-level asteroid destroyed by defense platforms that had been hidden in their system for decades. "They've been everywhere," Zorak said, "helping, watching, preparing." "For how long?" Vexra asked. "Centuries," Zorak replied. "Maybe longer." The realization hit harder than any weapon. The humans had not built an empire. They had built trust. "Admiral," the communications officer said hesitantly, "Earth is requesting a direct channel, personal transmission." Vexra nodded once. "Put it through." The screen changed. A human appeared, male, middle-aged, wearing a simple uniform devoid of medals or rank markings. His expression was calm, almost gentle. "Admiral Vexra," he said, "my name is Captain Min Jun Park. I command Sanctuary 7. Vexra braced herself. "What do you want?" "To talk," Park replied, "not as enemies." That alone unsettled her. "You enslaved billions," Vexra said, "destroyed worlds. Why give us a choice?" Park's expression softened. "Because we understand fear." Vexra stiffened. "You fear being weak," Park continued. "You fear being conquered the way you once were. So you struck first, took everything you could before someone else did." "You know nothing about us," Vexra snapped. Park gestured, and ancient footage filled the screen. Records of the Void Hunters, a forgotten threat that had nearly destroyed the hegemony's homeworld 300 cycles ago. "We were there," Park said simply. "Human ships fought beside yours." Vexra felt the ground shift beneath her certainty. "We hoped you would remember," Park continued, "that you would choose cooperation instead of conquest." The countdown reached 22 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. "What happens when it reaches 0? Vexra asked quietly. "Nothing," Park said. "If you withdraw, free the enslaved, let the galaxy heal." "And if we don't?" Park's eyes hardened, not with anger, but resolve. "Then we stop asking nicely." He gestured again. Figures appeared behind him. Some human, others unmistakably alien, all wearing the same insignia. "We are not one planet," Park said. "We are what the galaxy built together." The transmission ended. Almost immediately, sensors flared across the command center. "Multiple hyperspace signatures," an officer shouted. "Unknown numbers." "They're not attacking," Zorak said, staring at the data. "They're positioning themselves around our occupied worlds, protecting the rebels." Vexra looked at the countdown. 20-15-03. Her empire was surrounded. Her enemies were patient, and they were still giving her a way out. Hours later, alone in her private chamber, Vexra stared at the stars. For centuries, she had believed strength meant domination. Now she understood it meant restraint. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All hegemony forces," she said, her voice steady. "This is Admiral Vexra. Effective immediately, all units are to withdraw from occupied systems. Release all prisoners. Free all slaves. Return all stolen resources." Shock rippled through the channel. "Admiral, is this a joke? Are we under attack?" Our empire was built on fear," Vexra said. "And fear has finally turned against us." She opened a direct channel to Earth. "Captain Park," she said, "we accept your terms." Park smiled, not in triumph, but relief. "You made the right choice," he said. "But my people will suffer," Vexra said. "We took too much. We forgot how to build." "Then we'll help you remember," Park replied, "if you truly want to change." The countdown reached 0 and stopped. Across the galaxy, hegemony ships powered down their weapons and departed. Prison camps opened. Garrisons withdrew. Some commanders resisted, but they quickly discovered they were alone. Human allies emerged from the shadows. Ancient defense platforms awakened. Rebellions became restorations. 3 cycles later, Vexra stood aboard a human station, watching her homeworld from orbit. Krexel Prime looked different, greener, quieter, alive. "My people are happy," she said softly. Captain Park nodded. "They were never meant to be conquerors." "Why did you spare us?" Vexra asked. "After everything." Park considered the question. "Because someone once spared us," he said, "and taught us to be better." Alerts sounded. A new threat, a new species, a new crisis. Park turned to her. "Will you help us protect them?" Vexra straightened. "Yes," she said, "we will." As fleets from dozens of species moved together toward the unknown, Vexra realized something profound. She was no longer afraid. The galaxy had changed. Not because humanity conquered, but because humanity chose to protect it.